Today we will be discussing diabetes insipidus and its origins, effects, treatments, and much more about what there is to know about it. But first, what system is even affected by this? That would be the excretory system. Let's take a look. A body system which is mainly composed of the kidney, ureters, bladder, and urethra, and has two main roles in the body. Firstly, it removes nitrogenous waste from the body, such as the urea we produce, which may be toxic in large concentrations. And secondly, it controls water levels in order to maintain a suitable osmolarity within the tissues and cells. The first main function, the management and removal of nitrogenous waste, is important as nitrogenous waste is toxic to the body in large amounts. In the case of aquatic animals, they are able to flush this out easily as they have good access to water. However, for other animals, such as mammals, birds, and reptiles, there is not enough access to water to excrete waste like aquatic animals have, so they must store it in a less toxic form. For mammals, such as humans, this waste is stored in the form of urea, which is non-toxic enough to store in our bodies for long periods of time and in high concentrations, as well as easier to excrete given the lower limit of water supply. And for reptiles, birds, and other terrestrial vertebrates, it is stored as uric acid, which is even more non-toxic and easier to excrete. The second main function, the maintenance of water levels, is important as it is an important factor in maintaining homeostasis of the body. Homeostasis is the maintenance of a constant internal environment despite changes to the external environment. The reason this happens is so that the body is in its ideal conditions despite the external environment, which ensures a high chance of survival from an evolutionary point of view. There are many factors that are under homeostatic control, such as temperature, carbon dioxide concentration, pH, and regarding the excretory system, the concentration of solutes and regulation of water and glucose. Let's see how the kidney works to regulate its relevant factors. Initially, blood enters through the renal artery and then is split among smaller vessels. The blood goes to the glomerulus, which sits in the Bowman's capsule, a cup-like structure surrounding the glomerulus. Then the glomerulus filters out water and other small solutes, such as urea, glucose, amino acids, other ions, and essential proteins. Due to the size limitation of the filtration that occurs, larger proteins such as plasma proteins and blood cells are not filtered, which are then moved along and sent back to the renal vein. The remaining content, which is now known as filtrate, is what the kidney deals with, or in particular, nephrons. There are approximately 1 million nephrons in each kidney, and they all undergo this process to effectively reabsorb the necessary items. A nephron is composed, in order of the process, the glomerulus encapsulated by Bowman's capsule, the proximal convoluted tubule, the loop of Henle, the distal convoluted tubule, and the collecting ducts. Going back to where we were, the now filtered filtrate is then passed through Bowman's capsule to the proximal convoluted tubule, where most of the important content is reabsorbed, such as organic molecules like glucose and amino acids, as well as ions such as sodium, potassium, and some water that we want to keep for later. After it has passed through the proximal convoluted tubule, it now begins its journey down the loop of Henle. This is where majority of water reabsorption occurs, and the reason it is shaped the way it is to increase the surface area to volume ratio, which helps with increasing the area with which we can reabsorb content with. The loop of Henle also pumps out fair amounts of salt proportionate to how much the body needs, which makes the internal environment for the loop of Henle hypertonic in comparison to the loop itself, which will be important for later. Once it has made it through this loop, it now passes through the distal convoluted tubule, which mainly reabsorbs ions and regulates this amount. After this process, we have now finally taken majority of the important content out of the filtrate, and what remains should be urea, excess water, and other nitrogenous waste. The last stage is the collecting ducts, where hormones provide instructions to reabsorb specific amounts of water before letting the filtrate go, such as the all-important antidiuretic hormone, also known as vasopressin. This urine is then sent through the ureters, whose main purpose is to transport urine between the kidney and the bladder. Once down in the bladder, it's really just a waiting game until the body decides it is time to excrete the urine, where it goes to the urethra and out the body, at which point sphincter muscles relax and allow the work to be done. But what if the kidney doesn't respond to ADH at all, in an unexpected way, or it is not produced sufficiently enough? And therein lies the condition diabetes insipidus, a condition associated with the kidney, where insufficient amounts of vasopressin is produced, or the body does not react to the vasopressin as expected, which causes the body to pass abnormally large quantities of urine as a result, and makes the body thirsty despite having sufficient water to carry out its processes. Diabetes insipidus, also known as DI, is either congenital or caused by other damage, but it is not contagious and cannot be gained or given from or to other humans respectively. There are three main types of diabetes insipidus, each with their own causes. Firstly, central or cranial diabetes insipidus. This is the most common form of diabetes insipidus, and this is a lack of the antidiuretic hormone, which causes the body to expel large amounts of urine, even when urine is required for other bodily processes. The main causes of this form of diabetes insipidus are physical damage, such as during surgeries, through infections or tumors and other head injuries, which cause the hypothalamus to not correctly secrete the hormone at needed time due to the disturbance. It may also be inherited as a genetic trait, either from family members who have had central diabetes insipidus, or those who have had the gene as a recessive trait and which has been picked up further in the line as a dominant one. The main treatment for this, and the most effective one yet, is the use of desmopressin, which is a substitute to vasopressin that can be physically taken in order to provide the hormone. Although this does not cure the disease, as the affected body part will need to be cured, and generally it is too risky to do so with the hypothalamus, it does provide an easy way to supply the necessary hormones to the body, so it is relatively effective. Secondly, nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, which is less common than the central variety but still relatively prevalent. This concerns the other side of ADH, where it is being produced in sufficient quantities, but the body is desensitized to the hormone enough so that it does not react to it. The main cause of the nephrogenic variety is genetic inheritance, as a mutation in the AVP2 gene causes the disorder to front. Other causes include other products blocking the action of vasopressin, such as lithium, which is a medication used to treat bipolar disorder, other kidney disorders, high levels of calcium and low levels of potassium, which all prevent ADH from working properly and instructing the water levels to be retained or reabsorbed. The main treatment of this kind of diabetes insipidus is mainly from working to eliminate the root cause, as the diabetes insipidus may go away in these cases. Aside from this, medications such as non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs and thiazide diuretics, a class of diuretics which reduce urine production, as used in small amounts, to help relieve the strain on the kidneys in this process. So it is relatively effective short-term, but it is not viable in the long-term due to prolonged effect. Thirdly and lastly, dipsogenic diabetes insipidus, which is a defect in the thirst mechanism, not directly concerned with ADH, that causes an increase in thirst and liquid intake, which suppresses the secretion of vasopressin and causes large quantities of urine to be excreted. The causes are the same for central DI, as the same types of damage that can hurt the hypothalamus can also affect the thirst mechanism. Unfortunately, unlike the previous two variants, there is no known cure or long-term prevention method for dipsogenic DI, as the production or effective of vasopressin is not affected, but rather an entirely different mechanism. And so, the only known short-term prevention is to either take small doses of desmopressin, as it is dangerous in large amounts, and to drink more water to keep up with the demand that the body requests.